Oh, hey guys, welcome to Bet On It, where I'm too busy defending myself on Twitter from my coworker. Jeez, Marco's just on fire today, and rightfully so. You've been crushing the NFL, you guys. It's the most insane thing ever. My college football record is better, or my NFL record is better than my college football record this year. Thank you to all of those underdogs that keep barking and winning outright. I'm Kelly Stewart, your host tonight. We're going to break down this week's card with Marco D'Angelo at Marco in Vegas. If you're not following him on Twitter, and if you are following him, make sure you say some nice things to him as well. And VR Ace, Gianni the Greek, at Greek_Gambler on Twitter. Let's get this week's show started. We've got a primetime game on Sunday night and a primetime game on Monday night, and neither of which do I really care that much about, except for I'm going to be at the one on Monday. Pittsburgh at the Chargers. Chargers off that loss, Marco, to the Broncos. My best bet, not on this show. I apologize, guys. I finally got to the window with it. For the BR betting show, total 41.5. I'll start with you.
Well, Pittsburgh, you know, I'm going to cry in my beer here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're down to not the third-string quarterback. This is actually the fourth-string quarterback that's going to be
So just for some context, it's Wednesday. We're taping on Wednesday, so if Mason Rudolph ends up being a go, it sounds like right now he's not going to be, correct?
They have Delvin Hodges listed as the starter right now. If you saw the game last week and the hit that he took,
it was bad.
I thought he was dead. I mean, he went limp before he hit the ground, and he did not move for several minutes. But he was knocked cold, obviously in concussion protocol. In comes Delvin Hodges, was fourth on the depth chart for the Steelers in preseason. He was behind, obviously, Big Ben. Mason Rudolph won the starting job from Joshua Dobbs, who after week one, when Jacksonville lost their quarterback, the Steelers traded Dobbs, figuring he was expendable, and then Big Ben goes down that same week after they traded him, and now last week Rudolph goes down. So now we're at the third-string quarterback. But I'm going to say this, guys: the Steelers are 1-4. They are the best freaking 1-4 team in the NFL.
I would agree with that.
Okay, take out the first week when they lost to New England, and they just got the doors blown off of them. The other three losses have been by a grand total of 10 points. To some good teams. I mean, they played Baltimore, they played Seattle, San Francisco, who's undefeated. Their losses have been to teams with a combined record of 16-3 this season. Now they're going to be facing the Chargers, who you just don't know which Chargers team's going to show up.
So this is what I said last week, and everybody knows I'm a Broncos fan, right? Marco's a Steelers fan, but we're not afraid to bet against our teams in the right situations. The reason why I took the 6.5 with the Broncos and thought they had a chance to win outright is because of who the Chargers really are. Marco, it sounds like you're wanting to lay points here with the Chargers.
No, I don't.
Okay, just checking.
No, I absolutely want no part of laying points with the Chargers, not at a location where they have no home field advantage.
Zero.
And this is a spot where they have a tendency to play close games. The Steelers have historically been good as underdogs. Now, granted, this is a tough spot for them because last week's game was bigger than it normally was. They're at 1-4 right now. If they would have won last week, beat Baltimore, they lose by 3 in overtime. And Tomlin took a lot of heat last week he won the toss and kicked in overtime, and people were screaming at him. They held him. They did the right thing. They held Baltimore in the first possession. The Steelers got it, couldn't do anything, and then Baltimore scored on the next possession to end the game. But this is a spot. If they would have won, they would have been 2-3 instead of 1-4, but they would have been tied for first place. How much of a difference
and now the Redskins put Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, that just makes that's so silly. That's for a whole nother video. That's stuff for you get on talk show. But I'm taking Pittsburgh plus the points here, and I'm going to give you an NFL league-wide stat. And we know Ralph has always told us the difference. He likes the league-wide stats over a team trend because a team trend, it's a smaller sample size. This is something that happens throughout the league. And over the last 5 seasons, if you play against the favorite, and this is just a blind system, play against the favorite who was trailing by 14 or more points at the half last week, you would be 62-28 against the spread over the last 5 seasons. That applies to going against the Chargers this week. I'll take Pittsburgh plus the points. And to throw in, now that we're to another quarterback, this brings the injured player theory up again. Now the Steelers have a new injury, a new quarterback to rally around, and the Chargers have been giving up a lot of yards on the ground. I think the Pittsburgh can get the running game going and stay inside this number.
2-8 against the spread in their last 10 home games as a favorite. The Chargers are atrocious. VR, do you want to buck that trend?
I haven't bet this game. Listen, I had Denver last week. I thought Denver was going to get their first win. It ended good for me, but also bad for me because I was high on the Chargers with a future, and now that's not going to come through. With that said, it's tough for me to bet the Pittsburgh Steelers in this spot because of the Chargers coming off that loss against Denver. If they would have just won that game, even if they didn't cover, if they would have just won that game, then I would possibly look to the Steelers side because of how unattractive it appears, especially on prime time. And let's not forget, any bookmaker is going to tell you the result of their week is going to come down to how the Sunday night game goes and how the Monday night game goes. That's when all the money is bet, and more times than not, they're one-sided. And in this game, just how many teasers are going to be closed with that Chargers just to win against a third, fourth string quarterback? But again, there's not enough there to make me want to take the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then again, I wouldn't lay the points with the Chargers either. I think the under would be the way to go here with a lower scoring game than you'd expect. I mean, what they played last year and they scored 63 points, 33-30 final. I think this is going to be a much different game than that, especially when you look at who's going to be on the field this season. So for me, I think there's some value on the under, especially it's a primetime game. We know those totals seem to be shaded towards the over. But again, not a primetime game that I've gotten involved in yet.
Okay, so I really don't love either side in the Monday night game, but I'm going to the Monday night game, and so I can't be there without any action on it. I was looking to make a case for the Lions. Some money now came in on the Lions early. VR, is that what you're seeing? Do you know it? Was it a respected group that did that? I'm assuming
it's legit.
It's a legit play.
Yeah.
So at 6, now we're seeing 5, even 4.5. The Lions have owned this Green Bay team for the last year and a half. Granted, 2 of those games were without Aaron Rodgers. At what point is a play on the Lions? Am I too late to the party? Is this going to be a field goal type game, so it's okay to take the 4.5?
I'm glad you asked because Ralph did a great piece where he talked about key numbers and showing how since the extra point rule was changed, 5 is now more key than 2, 8, 9. More games land with a 5-point differential than an 8-point differential, which to me was stuck out the most because 28, 20, you see a lot within 8. But for 5 to beat that is huge. And now you're seeing groups getting on the right side of that, and that's why that line continues to drop. Listen, Detroit went into Green Bay last year and beat them. They shut them out. So there is that revenge factor there for Green Bay not wanting to get embarrassed by a Detroit team. But I like Detroit as well in this spot. I think there's some value there. This Detroit team is one of those where even if they're winning and covering games, the history of the franchise makes you not trust them. And it takes a while in all sports when we're so used to a team not doing well or not covering. It takes a while for us to change our views of how we see this team. I mean, we're all biased as humans, and once we have that bias, it's hard to change. And I think with Detroit, it's that bias where you can't trust them, even though, they're covered 3 straight games, even though they won.
I would have trusted them at 6, but I was late to the party, and I mean,
I think there's still some value there.
You do?
Honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. I really do. I think this is a good spot for Detroit to show they are legit. And we'll find out a lot about this team, especially you have a Green Bay team coming off a win at Dallas. There's some momentum there, but I like Detroit in this spot.
All right, Marco. Maybe I'll have like a teaser or something with Detroit. Give me a total. Let's play on the total here.
I actually do have a play on the total. I lean to the Detroit side as well. This is a spot where they're 2-1-1. This team could very easily be 4-0.
Easily.
You go back and look at the Arizona game. They gave that game away to get the tie, the first game of the season. Matt Patricia, just horrible clock management at the end of that game, and Arizona doesn't even get a chance to tie that game up.
I think Kansas City, same
last
thing.
week, come back to, it was a one-possession game, and they had an opportunity to do it. They went toe-to-toe with Kansas City. So I respect what Detroit's doing right now. And, we've fallen for this before, where we started to believe in Detroit and then you run to the window and then all of a sudden.
I tried to get Gianni Detroit to come to this game, but I think he was like, no, I don't want to go to a game where they're going to get blown out in Lambeau.
But I'm looking at this one, and I'm going to look at the total, and I think that there's a lot of value in this total because, Ace, as we always say, the primetime games are going to get pumped up. They know the public doesn't want to bet unders. They don't want to sit there and root for no scoring. Then you look at the scores of
between these two teams,
the last games that they played. Granted, Detroit had an extra week off because they had the bye week, and they don't play all the way to Monday, so that's an added advantage for them. And they're playing Green Bay, who last week was in a 34-24 game. Detroit's last game was 34-30. So people are going to look and see this total.
Recency bias.
They're going to see 47, and there's only one way that they're going to look at this game. They're going to look for it to be over because anytime you think of Aaron Rodgers, you think about the passing attack and, that they're going to score points. That's not going to be the case. I think for Detroit to win this game, they need to run the football. And teams have been running the football on Green Bay all year. Listen to this. Minnesota ran for 198 yards. Denver, not a prolific offense, 149 yards against them. 176 Philadelphia. And last week was their best defensive performance against the run. They only gave up 122. I think Detroit can run the football, and if they run the football, that shortens the game. This is also a division game, a very meaningful division game. Those tend to be played closer to the vest. I'm going under 47. I would suggest waiting until Monday night because when the public comes and gets involved in this game, there's only one way they're betting it. They're betting it over, and I think you'll get your max value a couple hours before game time. All
right, great stuff. We're going to step out for a quick break, but when we return, we're going to dig inside the numbers as we look at which NFL games have moved the most and why. That's up next on Bet On It.
This week only at sportsmemo.com, get a 3-day all-access package from your favorite Sportsmemo handicapper for just $39. This gets every play including 5% plays, which sell for $40 by themselves. With this special offer, you're getting 3 days for less than you would pay for one 5% play. Hurry, this is a limited time offer and only available at sportsmemo.com.
All right, guys, it's time to take a deep dive into some of these lines that have moved. The Westgate here in Vegas always puts out the NFL lines 12 days before. They call those the look-ahead lines. You can bet next week's games before this week's games are even played. Once this week's games are played, next week's lines will change. But the question are the moves justified or a big-time overreaction by the public? Okay, the Giants get beat by the Vikings. The Patriots beat the hell out of the Redskins. Open 14, now 16.5 VR. It's a 2.5 point line move justified.
It is. But again, you're taking the worst of it, even though New England continues to outperform the betting market. Again, bookmakers have done a pretty good job this year. I mean, they're 5-0 straight up, but they're 3-2 against the spread. Not that bad considering it's New England. Listen, few teams are going to do what New England's been able to do since 2003. So we're going back 15, 16 years. They're over 61% against the spread, Brady and Belichick. That's just so unheard of that it's difficult to fade them. Listen, the Giants you saw last week, that was the hot play. I don't think there's a sharp that didn't like the Giants last week, and they just didn't come through. I mean,
I guess I'm not a sharp, but I definitely
Minnesota,
the Vikings,
good.
It was great. It was a great day for me.
I saw Giants. But again, listen, it's justified because it's New England Patriots, and they continue to cover numbers. So what's the book going to do?
Yeah, you're right. They have to do it. Carolina at Tampa Bay. Marco, Tampa Bay waltzes in to USC Stadium, whatever the hell it's called now. I just lost the thought of it. Beats the Rams as almost a double-digit underdog, and then just lays an egg against the Saints. But this one, open Carolina -1, now Carolina -2. I'm not saying I'm going to rush to back the Bucs here, but this doesn't seem very justified for them to even open as a favorite.
It's a situation. This one is an overreaction. And Ace, she talked about a game that was being bet with both hands last week. They bet Tampa Bay against the Saints like they already had the final score. That line kept coming down all week. Came down from 4.5, went off. The game went off at 3, and the Saints just blasted them. Now everybody is jumping on the other side, and you know what? When I see the public doing that, going from one side
To the other
side. I always say it, be careful when you cross that fence, because as you're crossing it, that barbed wire fence, you could leave the family jewels dangling. Be careful. This one is totally an overreaction. It's not justified. Unless the bookmakers forgot this game was in London and made the line a little bit too low whenever they had the look-ahead line on one. But I don't think our buddy John Murray's, he's not going to miss that. So there's
But
no
I think
reason.
a lot of people do. I think a lot of people don't pay attention to the fact that this is a neutral site game as well. All right, VR, Cincinnati at Baltimore. So I bet 2 favorites last week, the Vikings and Cincinnati, and I immediately was like, hell yeah, the Vikings, and I immediately was like, Kelly, how are you so stupid to lay points
with
the
Cincinnati.
Bengals? It was also my best bet on the show. I apologize for that one, guys. Cincinnati, though, are they as bad as we've seen the last 2 weeks? Are they as good as we saw that first week against Seattle? This one opened Baltimore -8.5. Baltimore got lucky to get the win over the Steelers with, like Marco said earlier, a 4th-string quarterback, and now they're laying 11.5. I don't know if I really want to get to the window with the Bengals. I'm not going to lie to you.
I don't think this number's warranted. I think it's too high. But at the same time, as a bookmaker, your job isn't to predict outcomes, and it's simply to protect yourself and minimize risk and earn as much as you can off all that volume. So what are they going to do? You're going to get Baltimore money. You're going to get Baltimore teaser money. And there's not all that much to like with a Cincinnati team that was a home favorite last week and lost outright. You beat Baltimore one way. That's the only way you can beat Baltimore is if you can run on them. If they shut down your run and you become one-dimensional, you're done. They are going to beat you. Unfortunately for Cincinnati, they can't run the football. So I don't know how they're going to compete against this Baltimore team, because I looked at the Cincinnati side because I'm getting line value. Unfortunately, line value isn't always enough. Long term it is, but in the short term.
Sometimes line value makes you want to jump off the top of the Caesar's Palace.
Exactly. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think the line value's on Cincinnati, but the handicap doesn't offer much to like.
All right, Marco, Seattle at Cleveland. Cleveland 2-point favorite. Lays an egg on Monday night. Now Seattle is a 1-point favorite on the road. I'm going to bet the Browns, aren't I?
You are going to bet the Browns. This total overreaction here. That was a horrible spot last week for Cleveland. I had a big play on San Francisco on the game Monday night. It was my Monday night game of the month, and it was the spot. You had San Francisco coming off a bye week, and you had the Browns coming off their biggest win in a couple years. I mean, that win last week against Baltimore, I should say 2 weeks ago, that saved their season, because Baltimore would have basically had the division almost wrapped up already, and then they go and play a Monday night game against the San Francisco team that had to listen all summer long. Everybody's listened to all that hype about the Browns, and everybody is getting up for them. Well, now this is the classic. You're not as good as your best game, and you're not as bad as your worst game. And, man, we saw that in spades. We saw the worst game you could possibly have from the Cleveland Browns on Monday night. Whatever
Baker Mayfield just getting eaten alive worse than me on social media.
How about the Bosa with the?
Oh God, that was great. I'm not an Ohio State fan by any means, but that was funny.
That was funny. So this is pure overreaction by the public, and I think it's going to create a lot of value for sharps on the Cleveland side, and we might be talking about this game in another segment.
All right, VR, Houston at Kansas City. Did you see my tweet? I landed in LA on Sunday night. I took off during halftime, landed, and I was like, oh no. Killed a couple of my survivor picks, but hey, what are you going to do? Kansas City was 8.5 in the look-ahead spot, now down to 5.
Market's going against the best regular season team in the history of the NFL. I can't believe it. Again, I told you it was going to happen. Eventually, everyone gets exposed when you're phony. So I'm not surprised to see the Houston money coming in. I haven't bet this side at all. I'm looking at the under a little bit. That attracted me. I haven't bet it, but that's the side I was looking at here.
Real quick, at what point would you back Kansas City? 3.5?
I don't think it'll get there.
No?
I don't think it'll get there.
I just meant if Houston money's coming in and we get it pushed down enough.
I think you're going to get Kansas City money from the public when they. I don't think they're ready to jump off this Kansas City boat just because they didn't come through with them on Sunday night. I think they're going to come right back on Kansas City because that early money, that was sharp money. that moved that number on the Houston side, and because it was inflated. And most made that line a lot shorter like I did. Now it's probably closer to where it should be. So, again, not much value there. But will Kansas City lose back-to-back games at home? I think that narrative is why you're going to get a ton of Kansas City money.
That's fair. Washington at Miami. I made this one -6.5. We were talking about it on Twitter. Opening line comes out look headline comes out 6.5. Now down to 3.5. Washington, as VR mentioned in another segment about the Patriots. The Patriots kind of come out flat. They make their second half adjustments, and that was all she wrote for the Redskins. I know the books were cheering hard for the Redskins.
Yeah,
surprise, surprise. They needed somebody other than the Patriots. But this is kind of a big line move here, Marco.
Yeah, and what's the state of union in Washington right now? They fired the coach. I love Jay Gruden's comment post-game on Sunday when they asked him about job security, and he goes, well, I guess I'll find out Monday if my key works. Well, his key didn't work. Hit the road, buddy.
I think they were looking for a scapegoat. Yeah. I think it's a little higher up there, but that being said,
it's no question.
They don't want to win games.
It starts and finishes with Snyder. You see it when Jerry Jones interferes with the Cowboys, when Snyder interferes with Washington. These guys, they got more money than brains, and they think they're head coaches and that they can actually run a football organization. And you got to leave it to the people that know what they're doing. And who's going to want to take that job?
Mike Tomlin.
No, he's not going to take that job. You can rest assured of that. I look at this one. This is a overreaction to what is happening. Both teams got smoked last week like they were supposed to. So why did the stock come down 3 points on Washington in this one? The problem with this game is, and what really surprises me, that the line is coming down as much as it is. Both teams are winless, so everybody's saying, well, neither team wants to win this game, for a draft pick. Washington's not going to go winless, this season.
I actually said a couple weeks ago I thought this was a spot that they were going to be able to get a win.
They're going to get a win here or there, this Washington team. Miami, I don't know where they're going to get their win from, and they are a team that came into the season without high expectations, so tanking is definitely is on the agenda for them, and I don't want to be involved in a game where I don't know if that team is really going to.
You don't want to be the historic team that goes 0-16 like the Lions.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. They want to get at least a win.
The Browns did it.
Fair. Okay.
But if you're going to get the win, don't get the win against the team that might be competing with you for the final spot. Try to get that win somewhere down the road where somebody else already has it.
Now we're really talking how to strategize
for
tanking.
the draft.
Yeah.
Good God. All right, we're done. San Fran at LA. VR, this one opened 5.5, now 3.5.
Not surprised. Sharp money came in right away on San Francisco, and why not? Jimmy G on fire. You have teams going in opposite trajectories. That's the truth. San Fran's looking great. They're playing good football. They just did so on primetime television. On the flip side of that same coin, you have the Rams. They haven't looked good in their last 2 games. So I'm not surprised to see that move towards the San Francisco side, and I could confirm it's sharp money that pushed it there.
All right, Marco, we already talked about the Monday night game. This one opened Green Bay at -6. Over the Lions now 4.5, and even 4 as we're doing the show.
This is one where the move does not make any sense at all because Detroit didn't play last week.
Correct.
So their stock couldn't go up and their stock couldn't go down.
In theory.
In theory, Green Bay did play, and if anything, their stock went up. They went on the road and smacked Dallas around. The 10-point final wasn't even indicative of what the game was. They had a big lead early in that game, and Dallas got second half garbage time points to get back and make it look like a game.
Right.
So why is this line coming down? I think that sharp money was there. They took some money right away at the 6, because you can bet that number, and they had to make an adjustment and knew that they made a mistake on that 6. And it's not John Q. Public betting Detroit early. That's sharp money, and I tend to agree with it, as we talked about in the other segment.
Yeah, to finish up this segment really quick, John Murray and I do a podcast twice a week, and we actually talked about the look-ahead line is one of the sharpest lines, and they don't take a ton of big bets on it. Obviously, they limit it, but they want to see, hey, where do we need to?
Yeah, where do we got to adjust? Where are we off?
So they can dictate where the line should actually be. They use the sharps in a sense
right.
to figure that out. So if a lot of people didn't know that, I just want to do that PSA.
Question for you on your podcast. Who wins the time of possession battle between you and John? I heard that he really can't stay on the field long.
All right, guys, time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, it's time for the Steam Game of the Week from VR and either the Trap or the Sandwich Game of the Week from Marco.
Looking for more NFL betting info? Then tune into the Presidential Address each week when WagerTalk's own Lawrence Presman, the Prez, along with Kelly Stewart, break down this week's entire NFL card. The show is available every week exclusively at WagerTalk TV.
All right, this is going to be a fun segment every single week, and it doesn't hurt that we've been killing these two segments. Gianni's going to give us his NFL Steam Game of the Week. Marco's either going to bring us his sandwich or trap. Gianni, we're going to go to you first. Tell us, who is your Steam Game of the Week?
All right, we lost last week. These Steam moves are 4-1, I believe, right? We've done 5 shows.
Yes.
This is week 6. I'm going to go to a primetime total right here. It's the Thursday night football game in New England and the Giants. Giants are in for a tough week, man. Playing Minnesota and now playing New England. And New England's one of those teams where, you know, Belichick, he does not forgive and he does not forget. And he's not a big fan of this New York Football Giants.
You don't say.
Yeah, and if there's any chance to shut this team down, that's exactly what New England's going to do. I mean, they've won, 17 straight road games, NFL high. Since the Super Bowl, they've only allowed 2 touchdowns. I think the Giants are going to have a lot of trouble scoring. And New England, as good as they are, I don't see them putting up, 40 by themselves at home against this New York Giants team. And then let's factor in the final, what pushed it over the top, the weather. It's going to be a factor. Besides the rain that's expected, the wind is what's more important. It's not going to be a pleasant night in New England. I think that helps give us a little bit of extra value. The line's moving that way, but I do believe when the public gets involved on Thursday, it's going to be hard for them to go under that low of a total with New England playing at home. So I like the side. I agree with the Steam.
All right, under 41 is Gianni's Steam play. I know that was a roundabout way, but even I got confused for a second. Marco, we're no more sandwiches. We're doing traps.
This week we're doing a trap because, Kelly, here in Las Vegas, I forget what channel it is, but one of the local TV stations has a segment today. It's Dirty Dining.
Oh.
Okay, where they go into restaurants
Yeah,
that got shut down by the health department. Marco's Diner got shut down last week, folks. A lot of food poisoning with my plate.
New York Jets.
New York Jets last week. And I'll take it. I'll own it. We had a good week. Again, play all of the plays. We had a good week, but we lost the sandwich game. So the restaurants being, sterilized and everything, we'll have the sandwich game back next week. Trap game this week. And, man, is there a trap out there in Arizona? And you know what? Atlanta, they've been a trap for a lot of different reasons. This is a team that I just don't understand what is wrong with this team. They continually to put up big numbers offensively. Their defense is a total shit show right now. They gave up 50-some points to Houston last week, just absolutely got blown out of the park. But here's what's going to happen and why I'm calling this a trap. Ace, how many John Q. Public guys are going to look at this game? They still remember the Atlanta Falcons from the spot where they were in a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Okay? The fact is, ever since they blew that game, this has not been the same Atlanta Falcon team. I don't think they've ever recovered from blowing that game to the New England.
They clearly haven't.
Yeah. It's been a total wreck. But people are going to look and say,
Matt Ryan's arm looks like a wet noodle.
all you got to do is go to Arizona and win. This is a number where, it's under a field goal.
Just like that's all Detroit had to do week 1. All they have to do is win.
Just win.
Exactly. Just win. That's why, and we called it a trap then. We're going to call it a trap here again. I think Arizona gets the job done. They're coming off their first win. The one thing that you're going to get, and this is something you have to remember as we move forward with these teams that are in dire straits, like my Pittsburgh Steelers, like Atlanta, teams that are used to being in the playoffs, when you see that is gone, those teams are, they can roll up and die if they don't have a backbone. And we haven't seen a backbone out of Atlanta in a long time. And so you have to be afraid that if one or two things go wrong in a game, it can just spiral right out of control. And that's why right now we cannot bet the Atlanta Falcons. And in a pick the winner situation. It looks too easy to grab them to get a win. The one thing I know is Arizona has not quit. And even in the games that they've fallen behind this year with the young quarterback, first-year head coach in the NFL, this team believes in itself and they never stop. They fight to the end. We saw that get them a tie against Detroit early in the season, and I think this is the same type of spot here. I'll go ahead. I'll take them. I'm not going to fall for the trap. I'm taking Arizona plus the points. I'll go out on a limb. The way Atlanta's playing, the wrong team might be favored here.
Yeah,
to be honest
it's
with
pretty
you.
ugly. And I, like I said, I was on the wrong side of the Cardinals last week, and they looked good.
Well, I was on the wrong side of Atlanta last week, so.
All right, guys, time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, it's time to walk the dogs. My favorite segment, Barking Dogs, is up next.
Hey guys, you know I have to have a big special for Marco, VR, and Kelly allowing me a spot on their show. I appreciate it. I'll tell you what, the NFL, a 17-6-2 NFL regular season run, that is 74%. My college football, 31-19 my last 50 plays, that is 62%, including 9-4 the last 2 weeks. I've had a couple bittersweet weeks the last 2 weeks where my top play has lost, but I went 6-1. I want you on my football plays for an entire 30-day package. Use code 126, and that'll save you $126 off an all-access 30-day package. Go to WagerTalk.com, go to the Ralph Michaels page, click the 30-day all-access for $325, use code 126, and you're getting 4 weeks for less than the price of 2. Appreciate you listening. 30 days of football, $199. Be a part of it.
Welcome back. You guys know this is going to be my favorite portion of every single show because I love the underdogs. We know VR, he likes to have that little sprinkle on the money line. Marco, I'll start with you. Who is your barking dog this week? Can you bark for me? See, John Murray, at least Marco's fun. I couldn't get John Murray to bark for me on Sunday. That was fun.
All right. I'm glad you enjoyed that. You're not going to enjoy my pick, though.
That
Giants?
ugly?
No, worse. The Cincinnati Bengals. We're going Bungle land here with the Cincinnati Bengals.
That's ugly.
First of all, the line can't be 11.
You think they're barking? It's 12. I'm looking at it right now. It's 12 minus 115.
This line should not be that high.
No, of course not.
It's not. And for Baltimore, they're coming off their
But
big
this
game
is your
against
barking dog. That means you think that they're alive.
They're live in this game, but I'm not going to sprinkle, okay? All right, I'm taking them plus the points. There's just way too many points. This is a spot where I actually even considered in the sandwich spot, but since my restaurant got closed this week, I couldn't put them in the sandwich spot. And if I would have tried to reopen the restaurant after giving out the Jets as my blue plate special, and then I gave them Cincinnati as
two ugliest dogs on the board.
Nobody would come back to the restaurant. So we're going here to the barking dog. This is that ugly dog, the one that has got teeth sideways and everything else, hair all going every which way. Yeah.
So the opposite of Coco in Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I sent you pictures over the weekend. Your dog doesn't go to the spot like mine does.
This is facts.
Yeah. Okay. This is a spot where how do you justify this line going from 8.5 to 11.5 to now you're seeing 12s out there simply because they lost to Arizona. Baltimore beat Pittsburgh. They were in a war. Just at every Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. Those are the most physical games every year. You don't believe me? Just go ask Mason Rudolph about it, okay? He got his first taste of a Pittsburgh-Baltimore series, and he said, no mas, I want no more. He didn't know, he didn't know what day of the week it was whenever he woke up Sunday. I'm taking the inflated number here. You look at it, laying double digits is not something that has been a good proposition in the NFL long term.
Unless your name's the New England Patriots.
Yeah, but we have seen it this year that the parity's not there. And you know what? A lot of people, their comments last week on Twitter to me, hey, the Jets are just that bad. And you know what? After this week, maybe we're going to get it, hey, Cincinnati is that bad. But this is the game after being embarrassed last week. You lost to Arizona at home. You have hit absolute rock bottom, okay? You can't go any lower than they've gone. If they have anything left in the tank at all,
can Zach Taylor motivate these guys for a divisional game is the question.
You this is where you're supposed to. A division game, you're supposed to. And I see Baltimore winning the game, but I do not see it as a double-digit margin. I'm going to look at this one. I'm going to take them, and I'll give you a little number here on Baltimore. The Ravens, last 8 as a home favorite. They're just 1-7 against the spread. 2-9-1. Last 12 is a division favorite, home or away. Also, 5-12 against the spread. Last 17 is a division home favorite. 0-7 against the spread is a division favorite. Last 7. This team's on a run where they just don't cover numbers. And Baltimore is a team that they're not going to be throwing the football all over the place with Lamar Jackson. So they get a lead. They're just going to sit on the lead. I think Cincinnati and Andy Dalton can stay within this number. And here's a stat. I got this one from Ralph. Winless teams in Week 6 since 2001, 26-16 against the spread. There's only been 42 winless teams as of Week 6 in the NFL since 2001. But those teams get the money because you get what we have here, an inflated number. That's what I'm going to go. And by the way, check out Baltimore's schedule. They're coming off Kansas City, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh with Seattle on deck and New England after that. If there's a game that you're going to mail it in and just show up and go through the motions, what game's that? This one right here.
Very true. All right, VR, I'm not going to ask you to bark for me. But I know you won't. But that's why I'm not going to. You got to ask people to do stuff that you know they'll do. Okay, bad jokes aside, love Marco. VR, who is your barking dog?
I'll be quick. I already touched on it. Jimmy G, of course, you got to sprinkle a little something on that money line. And another road dog, the Houston Texans. I mean, those are 2 underdogs that are live. And if they're there to cover, they're there to win the game as well. So I think there's some value on the Houston side on the money line, and as well on the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it's time for us to tease you just a little bit. That's up next on Bet On It.
If you like betting on horses, be sure to check out WagerTalk.com's own Sig, who zeroes on one racetrack at a time, offering his handicapping skills. Visit his homepage daily for his top selection in each race free. If you want all his selections for that track, you can get his full racing report for just $9.
Woo! Okay, guys, we didn't listen to Johnny Detroit. We listened to you guys. So we're giving you what you want. We're ready to deliver it. This is our teaser segment of the week. Gianni and VR, are you guys ready to tease the audience?
Ready to go.
Okay, let's go. VR, you're up first.
All right, we're going to remember, you're teasing numbers here. You're not teasing teams. And I tend to look at least teams that aren't getting steamed against for this segment. So we're going to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. You could tease them up through the key number of 3, through the key number of 6. And we're also going to look to the Arizona Cardinals, who at home we can do the exact same thing to. Tease through the key number of 3, tease through the key number of 7. And that's what an advantage teaser is all about. The only reason you should be playing it is to get the best of those numbers. Otherwise, you just need the straight bet and not make it harder than it needs to be.
Agree. Just for any new listeners and or viewers this week, 2-team, 6-point teasers unless otherwise stated.
Yeah, especially with the juice they charge now.
Right.
I mean, if you're doing it for recreation, you don't want to be laying 130s, 140s that they're charging.
I see it all the time.
It's ridiculous. You can't beat it. You're not going to win money long term. Real quickly before you get, they just did a study. I had to share this, where they followed 20,000 day traders. Guys that claim they made their living day trading, 20,000 for 3 years. The longer they followed them, the less that were profitable. When the study was completed, 97% lost everything, had nothing left. These are guys that claim they made their money day trading. 97% after 3 years were broke. Less than 0.4%, so only 0.5% actually turned a profit big enough that you would make more than if you found a job getting $6 an hour. So if you got a job making $6 an hour over those 3 years, if you worked a 40-hour week, you would have made more than 99.5% of day traders who claim they made their money in the stock market. That's how hard it is to make money in these markets. And that's why be careful what you're betting and when you're laying 140s, 130s, it's just so hard to win. It's hard enough to win when you're laying 110. So few can do that. When you start laying more than that, it becomes, you can't win. I mean, you may have a winning week, a winning month, even a winning season, but your lifetime earnings are going to be negative, and you're lying to yourself if you say otherwise. You're forgetting the last 5 years of your betting history and only remembering the last 3 weeks.
All right, good PSA from VR. Marco, give me your two-team teaser.
Give you that. Just to add one thing to that. Here in Vegas, 6-point teasers you can find from as low as -120.
There you go.
To -140. And
What a difference.
Place that you're at every Sunday
I know,
is the best.
140.
No, 120.
Oh, it is 120?
It's 120 at Caesars. I believe it. And that would be the one that I would.
120 right here, too.
I would
Think that they would jack it up because they deal with tourists mostly.
That's why I assumed it was. I never bet a teaser there, so I was.
That's the place where I play my teasers. And Ace, if you remember a few years ago in the playoffs, you remember that one weekend where it didn't matter which way
Yes,
you
won every
all
way.
8.
You won every way.
The very next week, Caesars and the Brain Trust there, I'm probably not going to get a sponsorship from them now, they took the teasers off the board the next week for the playoffs when all of the lines were 3 and 3.5. That's when you want the teasers because people are teasing through 0. They took it off the board. I just had to shake my head.
Bears was the biggest teaser liability they had the other day. It was pretty funny.
For this one, I'm looking at Cleveland. I'm teasing them plus the points right now. You can get +8 on a 6-point teaser. Why? Well, first of all, that's the mechanical teaser. But 2, I'm getting more than teaser value here. This game, Cleveland was favored prior to their debacle on Monday night. So the overreaction from one game where they were in a horrible spot off their biggest win of the season and traveling to the West Coast, now they're a dog instead of a favorite. That's just even more added value. First half of my teaser is Cleveland. The second half of the teaser is another straight plus EV. We're looking at Denver, Tennessee. It's the lowest total on the board, and you've got Denver at 2, 2.5. You use the 6-point teaser, you get it through all the magic numbers of 3, 4, 6, and 7. I'm taking Cleveland and Tennessee plus the points. Do you really expect Denver to get separation on
I don't
any
expect
team this
anything
year?
from Denver as a favorite. I'm going to be honest with you. It's a scary spot. I laid the 3 with them. They were up double digits against Jacksonville, and we saw how that one ended.
And Tennessee's a team that can run the football, so they can protect the lead and shorten the game. You give me the 8.5 points there. So pure value for me, Cleveland and Tennessee.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break. And now that we've teased you, it's time to bring you some TNA with Ralph Michaels up next on Bet On It. Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at WagerTalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at WagerTalk and Sportsmemo.com.
I'm Gianni the Greek, and I absolutely love this weekend's card. In fact, I got some bombs you're going to want to drop on your book. First Saturday, not only are we unloading in college football, but I'm tossing in the UFC bets into that all-access pass for $39. Then Sunday, not only will you get the biggest bets I have in the NFL, but I'm releasing a 5% play as well. We hit last week's in college football. We're going to hit this week's in the NFL. Only $39 for each of those days.
Welcome back to Bet On It. And of course, one of my favorite segments, a lot of segments I like, but this is one of my favorites because I get to hang out with Mr. Ralph Michaels. It's time for some TNA. Ralph, people really love these trends and angles that you have. You dig up stuff each and every week. You use an SDQL, is that what it is?
Yeah, Sports Database Query Language.
Thank you.
It's something a friend from Cleveland, Ed Meyer, and his brother, they're on WagerTalk as Sports Query. So you can get their plays, but they have an incredible database for all sports that's free to use at killersports.com.
And I have no idea how to use it. So instead, I just say, hey, Ralph, can you please look up some awesome stats and trends for me?
I hear your voice, but in my mind, I'm thinking that's Marco's voice.
It's all of us. It's everybody at WagerTalk says, Ralph, because the database kind of reminds me of an Excel class in college. Yeah. It's hard, but you know how to use it, and you capitalize on it each and every week. Tell me what you've got for us this week in the NFL.
First thing is, I don't have a system or an angle that fits this week for this specific thing I want to talk about, but it's going to help you become a better handicapper. And you look at the NFL the last 20 years, if you can find a dog that is going to rush for 160 yards, you have gone 142 and 34 81% against the spread, including 13-1 this year. Now I'm saying, well, how do you find a dog that's going to rush for 160 yards? Well, there were 4 this past week.
Broncos.
Would you expected the Broncos against the Chargers? Maybe.
No, I like the Broncos,
Yeah.
but that's not anything I expected.
Did you expect Oakland against Chicago? No way. Did you expect Arizona against Cincinnati? No way. Did you expect Indy against the Chiefs? Maybe. You had a good rushing team. You had a solid offensive line. You had a team that's allowing almost 6 yards per carry. Yeah, that is a situation I would have looked at. So I went through and I didn't find anyone this time. But when you're looking ahead and you look back at how a team has rushed for a few weeks, and if a team has had some injuries and allowed a lot of yards rushing, it's something you want to look for the future to keep looking at. So dogs that rush for 160 yards over the last 20 years have cashed 81% against the spread.
That is absolutely awesome. Wow.
Next, let's look at teams that are off a loss. I broke down how teams are off a loss against each divisional, against each team in the NFL since 2016. And listen, if you're off a loss and you've played New England, you went 5-21 against the spread. Okay, New England's the outlier. They're the ATS champs. But how about this? If you are off a loss and you have played going back to 2016, we know Arizona's been a very bad team. We know Miami's been a very bad team. Hate to say this, we know Denver hasn't been a winning team.
Not since Peyton Manning left.
If you simply played teams off a loss against Miami, Denver, and Arizona, you have cashed 66% of those games. It's that simple. When you're handicapping the NFL, you find good teams that are pissed off, that are motivated, playing a bad team. We saw Seattle go into Arizona a few weeks ago, dominate them.
I was going to say that's bad news for Mr. D'Angelo's team.
Who's that?
The Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Chargers are off a loss to the Broncos.
Yeah, but this is this week you're playing them.
Oh,
so this
okay,
is when you're off a loss, and now you're playing the bad team.
Okay.
So, that would be the teams playing Miami. Again, that's Washington, so they're not a good team. Denver and whoever's
Titans,
playing Arizona. Yeah, so it doesn't really apply this week, but keep that thought process in.
Thank you for clarifying, because I had that totally assed backwards.
Now let's just give you a couple specifics. I'm going to ask you a question. We're week 6 into the NFL season. So you're 4-0 with a bye or you're 5-0. You lost the game as a favorite, like the Kansas City Chiefs. And now you're a favorite this week.
Like the Chiefs.
Like the Chiefs. Going back to 1996, do you bounce back or is it a hangover effect?
I think it's a hangover effect.
11-31 against the spread, a 26.2% play again, fading Kansas City. People think those good teams lost, all of a sudden they're going to bounce back. Well, there's a reason they lost. Casey's lost 3 in a row. Casey's has injuries. Mahomes was banged up. That's the reason they failed to cover 3 straight. That's the reason they lost last week. So don't be afraid to fade those teams that lose their first game as a favorite and are a favorite again. And the last 2 are both on the same game. I have an angle that is 1-20, saying to fade the Jets. I have an angle that's 10-1 that says to play on the Dallas Cowboys. And favorites of 3 or more off a loss as a favorite against a winless team from week 5 on. That's Dallas.
Yeah.
So you have a team that's a favorite of 3 or more. They lost as a favorite last week like Dallas did against Green Bay, and they're playing a winless team, simply 10-1-1 against the spread, and that is Dallas against the New York Jets. And on the Jets side, teams with a season win total of under 4. So you're a bad team coming in, you don't have expectations, or at least Vegas doesn't give you expectations. You're at home off back-to-back away losses like the New York Jets are. 1-20 against the spread since 2013. So bad team, back-to-back away losses, now back at home. Does that make you a better team? Not at all.
All right, Ralph, awesome stuff as always. It is time to take our last break of the show. But when we return, it is best bet time.
Want up-to-the-minute scores and odds direct from Las Vegas? Then check out our WagerTalk odds page. You'll get all the latest lines along with moves as they happen from all the biggest books in Las Vegas, including Westgate Superbook, Circa, Golden Nugget, Wynn, Stations, CG, and South Point, just to name a few. Best of all, it's absolutely free.
Guys, I'm killing it in college and pro football, going 28-10 the last 4 weeks with all of my football plays, increasing my clients' bankrolls by over 60% in just a 4-week period. My famous 5% major wager plays, we've won 5 of the last 6, and going back to last year, we're 9-2 the last 11 with these special 5% major wager plays in college football. We're also 1-0 with our NFL 5% plays on the season. My next 5% major wager play goes this Saturday, and it looks like I'm having one on Sunday as well. Just those 2 plays by themselves would sell for $40 a piece. That's $80 for 2 plays. Or you can pick up a 7-day all-access package for just $79 using coupon code MARCO79. Get all of my plays for just $79. Check it out on my homepage at WagerTalk.com.
We are back. There is only one thing left for us to do. Let's dive into our best bets of the week. I feel really bad, you guys, because I gave you guys Cincinnati last week and then ended up hating it come Sunday morning, but I did bet it, so we both went down in flames together. This week, we're not going down in flames because we have one of the best against the spread coaches in the NFL, Coach Mike Zimmer. I know that it looks really scary here to lay 3 with the Vikings against a very good Philadelphia team, but that's why you need to do it. 18-2-2 against the spread as divisional home favorites. One of my favorite stats that Mr. Ralph Michaels tweeted this morning. So I like the Vikings here. I made this game 4.5. I'll take the 3 all day. Or I'll lay the 3, all day. Marco.
I'm going to go to the LA Rams, and this is a spot where last week I was all over San Francisco because we were getting Cleveland, going against Cleveland off their biggest win of the season. Well, guess what? We're getting San Francisco off of their coming out party. That game was too easy on Monday night. Everything went their way. And guys, I mean, I know they put a total beatdown on Cleveland, but let's be realistic. As much as they dominated the game early, it was 14-3, and the interception at the goal line where it was in Beckham's hands and goes, up in the air, and then the guy intercepts it and, runs it to midfield. If they go in there, it's a 14-10 game. Who knows what would have happened?
Just so you know, that's the moment I just switched it off and just left.
Well, you knew it was done, at that point. I mean, it was. Now we got the Rams. They come in here in dire straits. They lost the game that they should not have lost in Seattle. They did everything right in that game. Missing a field goal at the end of the game is the final nail in the coffin for them. But what did them in was those first 2 drives when they took up a lot of time on the clock, went down the field, and had to settle for 2 field goals. How many times have you made a bet in your life where first 2 drives, man, it's like hot knife going through butter.
I had the over, and I was like, okay, I'm over the field goals now.
Yeah. But when you're up 6-0 after that, you just know that other team's just one play away.
And we saw it from Tyler Lockett.
And there it was. I like the Rams in this spot. And let's face it, the last time they were at home, the Rams were in a horrible spot. They were coming off that Sunday night game against Cleveland where they beat Cleveland in Cleveland and came home and had Seattle on deck. We used Tampa in that game as the sandwich game because of the spot. It was horrible for the Rams. This spot is great for the Rams. They got the extra days to prepare. San Francisco coming off the short week, and you want to talk about fat and sassy. You can't get any more fat and sassy. And we're getting value because the market's overreacted to what they saw on Monday night with the 49ers. So the 49ers are a good team. Yes, they are. I'm not going to dispute that. But they're not as good as they looked on Monday night. Everything went their way. And the Rams are way better than the 3-2 team that is on the field right now. And face it, if they lose this game and San Francisco goes, up to 5-0 or situation, they're in dire straits. They're going to be 2 games behind this team and, already lost the tiebreaker with losing the game at home. This is a game they have to have. I'm riding the Rams.
Yeah, I like it with you, Marco. VR, last but not least, you've been killing these best bets. Outright winner with Denver last week. Who do you have for us this week?
No, last week I didn't use Denver as the best bet. I had Denver big. I used them. Where did I use them for another show too? But
Barking dogs, maybe. Sorry, that's my fault.
No. I gave the 2 big dogs, the ugly ones, man. The Washington, the Jets, and I went 0-2. The ones that I grade are the ones that I bet, and that's the steam play of the week because I already take a percentage of what I get down for him, so it's a bet I want to see win. And of course, my best bet, I also bet. The other stuff, I don't keep the record of the teasers and the dog, and I'm just telling you what is an advantage teaser and some dogs that I think are live. But there's not a ticket in my pocket. The best bet in the Steam, there's a ticket in my pocket. Why I bring that up is because I went 0-2 last week, and rather than spend my time sharing the handicap, more importantly is you got to bet size consistently. That's the most important thing, and here's why. If you've been following me, the first 4 weeks, I went 6-1, 7-1, whatever. Now I'm 7-3. Yeah, so I was 7-1. So if you bet 100, 110 to win 100 on each of those, you put up 770, you won 700, you lose 110, so you're up 590. And let's say last week you decided and said, you know what, this guy's hot. He's 7-1. I'm up 590. I'm going to bet 250, 275 to win 250 on his Steam play and 275 to win 250 on his game of the week. Both lost. Now I'm 7-3, and you're only up $40 after someone hits 70% over 10 bets that you put $1,300+ in play, and you only have $40 to show for it. If that's how you're betting, you're not going to make money. So I can't stress enough that even guys that win long term, you're going to get 0-5 weeks, 0-10 weeks, 1-11 days. That's going to happen, and you have to go in betting knowing that. So please, just stay consistent if you're following us on these best bets and stuff. Long term, we're probably going to come out ahead. I'm going easily to the Jacksonville Jaguars over the New Orleans Saints. Again, I'm high on New Orleans, but this sets up nicely. Their stock's just way too high right now. And if you dig into the data, as good of a season as it appears that they're having, they have a negative point differential. It's only -1, but they have a winning record, a 4-1 record or so with a negative point differential. That's not good. That means there was a lot of luck involved in them winning some football games. On the flip side, Jacksonville, they're right there as well with a negative point differential, but only of 7. So again, pretty close to what the Saints have. To me, I think this Jacksonville at home, again, different surface than what the Saints are used to playing on and running on. I think Jacksonville's live here. I think it's a game.
So VR, a question I get a lot, so I want to ask it since you've been on your pulpit. I think you've done an excellent job helping educate some of our guests. Jacksonville now -1.5, -110, right? Standard bet. Money line it. That's -130.
Exactly.
Can you break that down for people?
And here's rather than lay the 1.5, 2, I'm money lining it always. You never want that half point, 1 point to beat you.
Well, we saw it with Seattle the other night, landed on 1 after John Murray joked on our podcast, it's not going to land on 1.
Also, here's why. Even more important, that very few bettors do that. When they bet the favorite and they see the points below a field goal, they'll lay the 110 to win 100 at -1, -2. They think all I have to do is win the game. But when they're betting the dog, more times than not, they'll take the money line, saying that 1 point ain't going to help me, that 1.5 ain't going to help me. So why lay 110 to win 100? I'll put up my 100 to win 105. And a disproportionate amount of money on the dog on the money line tends to bring that down. And I think that's what's going to happen Sunday. The Saints are an attractive team. They get public money every week. Now they're an underdog, like Kelly touched on. I don't think bettors that are lining up to take the Saints care about getting that 1.5, 2 points. Instead, I see them taking it on the money line at plus money. I think that money line is going to come down. That's how I'd bet it with Jacksonville. I think Sunday you'll get a good money line price.
Just to add to another one, in a perfect example was this past Sunday. The Baltimore-Pittsburgh line was 3.5 most of the week. Circa on Sunday, and they had it at 3, but they had it at -120. Anytime you can get off of a 3.5 and get to 3, and you're only laying the extra 10 cents, that's a play every single time.
Would you say the same as 7 and 7.5 or no?
Yeah, 7 and 7.5 if you get it 120. But the problem is most places juice you 125 to 130 if you're buying the hook. If place has it already up at 3 -120, you grab the 3 -120 all day versus the 3.5 at -110. And worked out for me because I had Baltimore and got a push.
There we go. Guys, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show as much as we did doing it. And big shout out to VR and Marco. Thank you guys for sharing and everything that you do. If you guys love the show, leave us a comment. If you guys hate the show, leave us a comment. Jump in our comment section. Let us know what your thoughts are. What can we do to improve? We'll try to get in there, interact with everybody. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe and notification button so you will always be the first to know when next week's show is out. Till next week, let's bet on it.